Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's term. This week of the term, we're in week 4. Today, we're going to be talking about memory failure, consumer network, and innovation. When we're discussing memory failure, it is something that happens many times to all of us. It could be stress related. It could be related to we have a lot of things on our mind. When it comes to our customers, you can market yourself in various places. A lot of people like to have commercials at gas stations. There's a sensor that senses when you get out of your car and you start filling up, and all of a sudden they're telling you you're hungry. How about a nice cold drink and a bag of chips? Right now we're having a sale, $1 off if you're part of 7-Eleven Club, right? I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but they market that way. You can always make a point to ignore it. I do that. But sometimes you are hungry and you hear that commercial and you're like, you know what, I am hungry. So they're playing you on that. There's subliminal messages where maybe they show a little item on the screen and you see it and then you start thinking, I'm hungry, right? You're watching something, they're eating M&Ms. That looks good. Now you want to eat M&Ms. In commercials, sometimes they'll have music and they'll have like secret words put into the song that maybe subconsciously you don't hear, but unconsciously you do hear those words. So it's like subliminal messages. Here's a little short video from TED Ed. And this one is all about how memories form and how we lose them.
Think back to a really vivid memory. Got it? Okay, now try to remember what you had for lunch 3 weeks ago. That second memory probably isn't as strong. But why not? Why do we remember some things and not others? And why do memories eventually fade? Let's look at how memories form in the first place. When you experience something, like dialing a phone number, the experience is converted into a pulse of electrical energy that zips along a network of neurons. Information first lands in short-term memory, where it's available from anywhere from a few seconds to a couple of minutes. It's then transferred to long-term memory through areas such as the hippocampus and finally to several storage regions across the brain. Neurons throughout the brain communicate at dedicated sites called synapses using specialized neurotransmitters. If two neurons communicate repeatedly, a remarkable thing happens. The efficiency of communication between them increases. This process, called long-term potentiation, is considered to be a mechanism by which memories are stored long-term. But how do some memories get lost? Age is one factor. As we get older, synapses begin to falter and weaken, affecting how easily we can retrieve memories. Scientists have several theories about what's behind this deterioration. From actual brain shrinkage, the hippocampus loses 5% of its neurons every decade, for a total loss of 20% by the time you're 80 years old, to the drop in the production of neurotransmitters like acetylcholine, which is vital to learning and memory. These changes seem to affect how people retrieve stored information. Age also affects our memory-making abilities. Memories are encoded most strongly when we're paying attention, when we're deeply engaged, and when information is meaningful to us. Mental and physical health problems, which tend to increase as we age, interfere with our ability to pay attention and thus act as memory thieves. Another leading cause of memory problems is chronic stress. When we're constantly overloaded with work and personal responsibilities, our bodies are on hyper alert. This response has evolved from the physiological mechanism designed to make sure we can survive in a crisis. Stress chemicals help mobilize energy and increase alertness. However, with chronic stress, our bodies become flooded with these chemicals, resulting in a loss of brain cells and an inability to form new ones, which affects our ability to retain new information. Depression is another culprit. People who are depressed are 40% more likely to develop memory problems. Low levels of serotonin, a neurotransmitter connected to arousal, may make depressed individuals less attentive to new information. Dwelling on sad events in the past, another symptom of depression, makes it difficult to pay attention to the present, affecting the ability to store short-term memories. Isolation, which is tied to depression, is another memory thief. A study by the Harvard School of Public Health found that older people with high levels of social integration had a slower rate of memory decline over a 6-year period. The exact reason remains unclear, but experts suspect that social interaction gives our brain a mental workout. Just like muscle strength, we have to use our brain or risk losing it. But don't despair. There are several steps you can take to aid your brain in preserving your memories. Make sure you keep physically active. Increased blood flow to the brain is helpful. And eat well. Your brain needs all the right nutrients to keep functioning correctly. And finally, give your brain a workout. Exposing your brain to challenges like learning a new language is one of the best defenses for keeping your memories intact.
Okay, video is over. All right, so as we've seen, our memories are not
My
perfect.
first year teaching, lesson planning was rough. Then I found education.com.
Okay, let it turn low. Okay. Right. As we've seen, our memory is not perfect. They fail in part due to our inadequate encoding and storage, and in part due to our inability to accurately retrieve and stored information. But memory is also influenced by the setting in which it occurs and the event that occur as we have experienced an event by cognitive process we help to remember. Memory decay. Why do we forget? Some memories simply fade with the passage of time. They decay as structural changes, learning produces, the brain simply go away. But most forgetting is due to interfaces. We learn additional information. It displaces the earlier information because we store pieces of information in associative networks. We're more likely to retrieve meaning concept when it's connected to the number of links. As we integrate new concepts, a stimulus is no longer as effective as to retrieve old response. And these interface effects help explain why we have trouble remembering brand information. Since we tend to organize attribute information by brand, we learn additional attribute information about the brand or similar brands, and this limits our ability to activate older information. Cost of failing to be memorable. Marketers obviously hope that consumers will not forget about their products. However, a poll of more than 13,000 adults, more than half were unable to remember any specifics they had seen, heard, or read in the tiny past 30 days. How can you remember? Quick, make a list. Forgetting by customers is a big headache for marketers. That's why a lot of times you see the same commercial over and over again because it takes us like 8 times maybe to remember something. Cognitive basis is errors in the memory or judgment that are caused by inappropriate use of cognitive process. Okay. Yeah, that's my little kitty crying. I have 4 kitties. I have 20 chickens and 4 cats. There's errors in memory and judgment. They're caused by inappropriate use of cognitive processes. We have anchoring bias, over relying the first piece of information obtained, usually in this baseline of comparisons. Ability biased, making decisions and immediate information. Examples come to mind. Bandwagon effect, making a decision if there's others that also hold a belief or opinion. People tend to divide themselves into groups, and they attribute positive attributes to the group, like similar groupthink or herd mentality. Choice, supportive bias. Once a decision is made, focusing on the benefits and ignoring minimizing flaws. Confirmation bias, pay more attention to information that reinforces previously held. Then you have false consensus effect. It's overestimating how much other people agree with their own beliefs, behaviors, attitudes, and failures. These people not only incorrectly think, but everyone else agrees with them, but also can lead to overvaluing opinions. The halo effect, tendency for initial impression of a person to influence what they think overall. Assuming that somebody is good or bad is one thing, that equally good or bad to another. Hindsight bias, tendency to see events, even random ones, or more predictable than they are, similar to the I knew it all along phenomenon. Misinformation effect, tendency of memories to heavily influenced by things that happen after the actual event itself. These memories may be incorrect or mismemorized. Self-monitoring refers to the ability to accurately identify the source of memory. Sleeper effect refers to attitude change that occurs over time when we forget the source of information. This is the MSG myth. Debunking the MSG myth. Countless scientific medical experiments were conducted for 2 decades following the Color's 1968 film from the FDA to the United States. Extensive examination completed by many governments, Australia, Britain, Japan, which concluded that MSG was safe to use as a food additive. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration states the following website. FDA considers addition of MSG to foods generally recognized as safe. Although many people identify themselves sensitive to MSG, the studies indicate that individuals given MSG or placebo, scientists have not been able to consistently trigger reactions. This leads me to wonder what's really behind the panic of MSG. Now, remember, not everybody is the same. My grandpa is allergic to MSG, which was at the time, back in the 80s and 90s, a lot of Chinese restaurants use MSG. It was just an additive, right? There's people who are allergic to all the additives, so they can only eat organic. So if you have a restaurant and you have customers asking, it could just be preference, or they might have an allergy. And it's a good idea to keep that in mind because they can get anaphylactic shock, end up with a heart attack, heart failure, seizures, and organ shutdown. There's been a lot of different cases I've heard about people actually dying from eating something they're allergic to, whether it was like a peanut particle or they didn't know they were eating a pecan nut in a pie, things like that. I even heard a story about a gal who passed away. She went to like one of those places like Thrifty's ice cream where they use the same scoop for each ice cream. Some places have separate scoops for each ice cream, and then some use the same scoop for everything. And she happened to get vanilla, but they share the same scooper with the Rocky Road, so she passed away. She had organ failure and she died in a coma. So, and a lot of us don't really care because it has nothing to do with us. But remember, if it's your business and somebody dies under your roof or with your product, then you can get sued. And some people will try to sue you for every single thing you have, so your company might get shut down. So it's just good to know that ahead of time so you can avoid that because you just never know. They even nicknamed this the Chinese restaurant syndrome. Why? Because, MSG is in a lot of different foods that Chinese restaurants have. And they call it the wonton soup headache, right? So Mosby argued that Chinese restaurant syndrome was at the core product of racialized discourse that framed for much scientific and medical and popular discussion surrounding the condition. Okay, so It's also not just in Chinese food, it's also in junk food. Like I said, it is an additive. That's why when you buy potato chips, it may say no MSG. So you not just have it in food, it could be in not just Chinese food, it could be in other food too. It does boost the flavor and the salt. So a lot of the like prepackaged items would probably have that for sure. And also ketchup could have MSG in it. Some mayonnaise, barbecue sauces, soy sauces, mustard, some salad dressings. Those could even have MSG in them as well. But some people think that also can make you sleepy, right? I mean, some people are just really sensitive. Like my sister can't have lunch meats because of nitrates. It gives her migraines. And I've had a couple students tell me that too over the years. A lot of fast food places also have MSG as well. There's been rumors that, like some places have MSG. Some restaurants like Burger King, McDonald's said they don't use MSG. Yes, some potato chips would have it like Pringles and Doritos. Those have been known. I don't know now, but in the past they did a lot of because they're prepackaged snack chips and they last a long time. I mean, I've even eaten some of those like little goldfish, those little yellow crackers are shaped like goldfish. And they were like expired like 3 years before. Someone gave them to me. I didn't know. I didn't even check the package. I just opened them and started eating them. I was like, they kind of taste stale. I look and I was like, shoot, these are like 3 years old. But it has additives in it, some MSG, some preservatives and stuff. So I was fine. That was 3 years ago. Schemas help us remember information by organizing material into coherent representations. However, although schemas can improve our memories, they also lead to cognitive bias. Using schemas may lead us falsely to remember things that happened to us and distort or misremember things that we did. Does salience fool us? At night, however, if you go to a party, a friend shows you a brand new mobile device after checking you decide it's perfect for your needs. That's like word of mouth. That's the best kind of marketing. Just let the customers do it for you. When we talk about the customer motivation, if your customer likes your product, they'll be motivated to share it on like their Facebook page, Twitter, their Instagram. Here's some terms. Cognitive dissonance, that's customer remorse, customer guilt, unsettling feelings they feel with the post-purchase. They feel their actions are not aligned with their needs. Some of the big purchases that people may have is like buying a car or truck or some kind of vehicle. You might be like, oh shoot, and you realize the payment's like $500 a month. That might be a little bit steep for your budget. Or maybe you bought a house and now you're realizing it's not the best neighborhood. Customer involvement. Customers' involvement level reflects on how personally important or interested they are in purchasing an item. Customization marketing strategy used to increase involvement engagement levels with customers. Customization involves the personalization of products for large groups or homeostasis similar customers. We have drives and drive theory. It represents the tension we feel when our body's out of balance, for example, due to hunger. Hunger is therefore a drive state. It drives present psychological characteristics or things we feel are motivated to resolve because they're essential to our survival. Expectancy theory, that's a theory that's very directly from the drive theory because it explains our motivations and desirable outcomes that were achieved through our own effort and performance. Intrinsic motivation, that's a tendency to take action and pursue a goal. Motivation, because the outcome and achievement itself will be beneficial. Goals represents how things will turn out, is known as desired state. Hedonistic needs, that is needs that are considered luxurious and highly desirable. High involvement, decision making typically reflects the customer who has a high degree of interest and attachment to the item. These items may be relatively inexpensive, pose a high risk to the customer, can't be exchanged or founded easily or at all. Requires some degree of research or comparison shopping. Homeostasis, a term used to describe a natural and harmonious state of our body systems. Homeostasis is achieved when a need or a goal is satisfied. When we're hungry, we eat. When we're tired, we sleep. Impulse buying, a type of purchase made with no previous planning or thought. Intrinsic motivation, it is tendency to take action, pursue a goal. Motivation because the process itself will be beneficial and fulfilling. Limited problem solving, customers engage in limited problem solving when they have some information about the item, but continue to gather more information to inform their purchasing decision. And this falls between a low and high involvement in the involvement continuum. We have a low involvement. That is decision typically affects the customer who has the low level of interest and attachment to an item. These items are relatively inexpensive, low risk, can be exchanged, returned, or replaced easily, not require research or comparing shopping. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, 1943, is a motivational theory that places 5 needs on a hierarchical structure. It begins with basic psychological needs, safety needs, social needs, ego needs, and ends with self-actualization needs. Maslow's theory is based on belief of the lower level needs should be attended before the upper level needs could be. Motivation, psychological energy, driving force that pushes us to pursue our goals. Motivational conflicts in marketing context. These different types of conflicts exist when customers are faced with making a choice between purchasing decisions that bring out different outcomes, positive or negative. And 3, motivational conflicts, the approach avoidance, and avoidance. We have needs, a basic tendency, lacking of essential items such as food, water, shelter. Personalization, individualization, marketing strategy used to increase involvement and engage levels of consumers. Personalization involved in tailoring a product or service to meet the unique needs and wants of consumer. We have prevention orientation, self-regulatory orientation. We use to emphasize the goals and things that we should be doing, as well as the things we should be avoiding. The orientation focuses on safety, responsibility, and security needs, as well as avoiding problems, dangers, and potential threats. Promotion orientation, self-regulatory orientation. We emphasize goals that we think are hopeful, as well as the things that bring accomplishment, advancement to our needs. So orientation focuses on the things that want to bring us pleasure and positive outcomes. The concept describes when consumers make low involvement decisions, automatic nature, and reflect the limited amount of information the customers gathered in the past. Unitarian needs that are considered practical and useful. And wants, identifying specific and personal criteria on a need and how it should be fulfilled. Let's watch a video about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Actually, I have 2 of them. I'm going to show you. One from Sprouts and one from School of Life.
Hey, Dad. I got an A in my book report.
That's cool.
And I went for a walk in the woods, and I didn't get a single flea or tick on me.
You are.
One of the most legendary ideas in the history of psychology is located in an unassuming triangle divided into 5 sections referred to universally simply as Maslow's pyramid of needs. This profoundly influential pyramid first saw the world in an academic journal in the United States in 1943, where it was crudely drawn in black and white and surrounded by dense and jargon-rich text. It has since become a mainstay of psychological analyses, business presentations, and TED Talks, and grown ever more colourful and emphatic in the process. The pyramid was the work of a 35-year-old Jewish psychologist of Russian origins called Abraham Maslow, who'd been looking, since the start of his professional career, for nothing less than the meaning of life. No longer part of the close-knit Orthodox family of his youth, Maslow wanted to find out what could make life purposeful for people, himself included, in modern-day America, a country where the pursuit of money and fame seemed to have eclipsed any more interior or authentic aspirations. He saw psychology as the discipline that would enable him to answer the yearnings and questions that people had once taken to religion. He suddenly saw that human beings could be said to have essentially 5 different kinds of need. On the one hand, the psychological, or what one could term, without any mysticism being meant by the word, the spiritual, and on the other, the material. For Maslow, we all start with a set of utterly non-negotiable and basic physiological needs for food, water, warmth, and rest. In addition, we have urgent safety needs for bodily security and protection from attack. But then we start to enter the spiritual domain. We need belongingness and love. We need friends and lovers. We need esteem and respect. And lastly, and most grandly, we are driven by what Maslow called, in a now legendary term, an urge for self-actualization. A vast, touchingly nebulous, and yet hugely apt concept involving what Maslow described as living according to one's full potential and becoming who we really are. Part of the reason why the description of these needs, laid out in pyramid form, has proved so persuasive is their capacity to capture a profound structural truth about human existence. Maslow was putting his finger with unusual deftness and precision on a set of answers to very large questions that tend to confuse and perplex us viciously, particularly when we're young. Namely, what are we really after? What do we long for? And how do we arrange our priorities and give due regard for the different and competing claims we have on our attention? Maslow was reminding us with artistic concision of the shape of an ideal, well-lived life, proposing at once that we cannot live by our spiritual callings alone, but also that it cannot be right to remain focused only on the material either. We need, in order to be whole, both the material and the spiritual realms to be attended to, the base lending support while the summit offers upward direction and definition. Maslow was rebutting calls from 2 kinds of zealots. Firstly, over-ardent spiritual types who might urge us to forget entirely about money, housing, a good insurance policy, and enough to pay for lunch. But he was also fighting against extreme, hard-nosed pragmatists who might imply that life was simply a brute process of putting food on the table and going to the office. Both camps had, for Maslow, misunderstood the complexity of the human animal. Unlike other creatures, we truly are multifaceted, called at once to unfurl our soul according to its inner destiny, and to make sure we'll be able to pay the bills at the end of the month. Operating at the heyday of American capitalism, Maslow was interestingly ambivalent about business. He was awed by the material resources of large corporations around him, but at the same time he lamented that almost all their economic activity was, unfairly and bizarrely, focused on honouring customers' needs at the bottom of his pyramid. America's largest companies were helping people to have a roof over their heads, feeding them, moving them around, and ensuring they could talk to each other long distance. but they seemed utterly uninterested in trying to fulfill the essential spiritual appetites defined on the higher slopes of his pyramid. Towards the end of his long life, Maslow expressed a hope that businesses could, in time, learn to make more of their profits from addressing not only our basic needs, but also, and as importantly, our higher spiritual and psychological ones as well. That would be truly enlightened capitalism. In the personal sphere, Maslow's pyramid remains a hugely useful object to turn to whenever we're trying to assess the direction of our lives. Often, as we reflect upon it, we start to notice that we really haven't arranged and balanced our needs as wisely and elegantly as we might. Some lives have got an implausibly wide base. All the energy seems directed towards material accumulation. At the same time, there are lives with an opposite problem, where we've not paid due heed to our need to look after our fragile and vulnerable bodies. Maslow's beautifully simple visual cue is, above anything else, a portrait of a life lived in harmony with the complexities of our nature. We should, at our less frantic moments, use it to reflect with newfound focus on what it is we might do next.
Our decision dice are a tool to help you make wiser decisions in work, love, and the rest of your life.
Fine. Humans are noisy. They like to make things. They're fueled by inspiration. Inspiration is something called tacos. Change makes them nervous, but embracing it changes everything. Yeah, imagine that.
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you that was your 5-minute break. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that. Okay. Here is the one from Sprouts.
So this full moon that's coming up this week is a really important one, and when you do a meditation...
Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a theory in psychology. It argues that there are 5 stages of human needs that motivate our behavior. Abraham Maslow proposed his theory in 1943 after studying what he called exemplary people, such as Albert Einstein or Eleanor Roosevelt. First, there are physiological needs, such as the need to breathe, eat, drink, or sleep. The moment we get enough of that and we feel awake and our bellies are full, we get motivated by the next thing. Now we want safety. We try to earn money, build up resources, and look for shelter that protects us against dangers. Once we are satisfied and feel safe, we have time to think about what we want next. At stage 3, we seek love and belonging. We desire to be close to family and friends, belong to a society, or join a gang. But the moment we feel completely part of a group, we already wish to be a little different than the rest. At stage 4, we look for esteem, self-confidence, and respect from our peers. We want to be someone. If we have money, we buy a fancy watch. If we have a brain, we write or think or work a lot. Motivation to perform and compete is now at its highest. Students, sportsmen, and inventors excel. Neil Armstrong even flew to the moon. Only if we breathe and drink and eat and sleep enough, and we feel safe and part of a group and still special, only then can we reach level 5, self-actualization. Now we can relax, be creative, accept facts for what they are, give back or do whatever we want. No more pressure, unless of course there is trouble below. If you are a leader and believe in the theory, use it. First, make sure everyone has eaten well. Then make them feel safe and help them belong to a group. Once they feel they belong, they are ready to stand out and excel. Thanks for watching. Even if we try to keep it short, each video is quite some work. First, we research and write a script. Then we brainstorm ideas. And after that, we draw the storybook. Then it's recorded, narrated, and finally edited. If you want to support us to make more videos on learning and education, visit patreon.com/sprouts.
Okay. Okay, one more video, and I'm going to go over a PowerPoint with you, and then we're done. So, do psychologists still use the Maslow's hierarchy of needs? I should. You can kind of tell which my favorite websites are, right?
Humans are driven by all kinds of wants and needs. They can be as simple as needing food to keep your body going, or as complex as wanting to write a symphony. Psychologists are curious about what motivates us, moment to moment and year to year, and they aim to describe these motivations in a way that's useful for things like clinical treatment, or like managing lots of kids at a summer camp. In 1943, the American psychologist Abraham Maslow proposed a hierarchy of needs in his paper titled A Theory of Human Motivation. But while some of his ideas have stuck around, others have been left behind. Psychologists nowadays are trying to paint a more nuanced picture of what makes us tick. Back in the mid-1900s, Maslow set out to create a comprehensive theory of human motivation, supported by clinical and experimental evidence. Referencing other research, he believed that our behavior is driven by unmet needs. If your body needs nutrients, you feel hungry and you eat. Things like that. And he proposed that we're motivated by very basic needs first and most strongly, before worrying about other things. Maslow also recognized that context and culture affect human behavior, so he wasn't claiming that these ideas were totally universal, but he wanted to identify things that most people have in common. What he came up with was a pyramid, which you've probably seen in any Psych 101 class. The most basic needs are at the bottom, and higher order needs are at the top. At the base, he put physiological needs, the stuff you need to survive, like food, water, and shelter. together. From there, they get a little more philosophical. They cover basics like feeling safe, but also more complex needs like feeling loved or having self-confidence. At the very top, he puts self-actualization, or wanting to fulfill your potential and pursuing things like art or music. And later, Maslow added self-transcendence, which he defined as aspiring to a higher goal outside oneself, like through altruism or spirituality. Now, Maslow's evidence for those top-tier needs was based off of a qualitative biographical analysis, where he tried to find common qualities of a short list of people he decided were self-actualized. This included historical figures like Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln, and Eleanor Roosevelt, but also a group of unnamed people who were alive while he was doing his research. And this is obviously a very subjective approach to research. Plus, when you have a small sample group with a majority of educated white males, it's hard to say how well these results generalize to everyone else. Despite the flaws, Maslow's ideas have been widely taught and have found some use in fields like nursing and education to help evaluate how patients and students are doing. And nowadays, other psychologists are trying to test Maslow's ideas and develop their own list of human needs. For example, one psychologist proposed a hierarchy of 3 need categories based on Maslow's ideas and other research: existence, which includes bodily and safety needs; relatedness, which includes social things; and growth, which is like self-actualization. Some studies have people fill out questionnaires about their lives and well-being. Like from 2005 to 2010, one psychologist worked with the management company Gallup to send out a poll to countries around the world. In total, they surveyed 60,865 people from 123 countries and got responses to questions related to the needs in Maslow's hierarchy, along with things like general well-being and everyday good and bad feelings. The researcher worked with another psychologist to analyze the data, and they published a paper in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in 2011 with their conclusions. While they did find that Maslow's needs are generally important to people in many places, the hierarchy is maybe not so much of a pyramid. It's more like overlapping circles. Not every need has to be fulfilled before you can think about the next one, which makes sense. Like, you can be hungry and still have fun hanging out with friends. And while basic needs like food were a good predictor of overall life satisfaction, their data suggested that everyday happiness was more linked with things like respect and social needs. So Maslow was trying to identify some core human motivations, but his research had some pretty big limitations too. We can't exactly predict what we need and how we act based on that textbook 5-tier pyramid. But thankfully, with more comprehensive surveys, questionnaires, and other research methods, psychologists have better tools to measure subjective things like human needs, wants, or feelings. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow Psych, and thanks especially to our patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, this channel wouldn't exist. If you want to support us there and get some cool perks, you can go to patreon.com/scishow. And if you want videos like this, you can go to youtube.com/scisshowpsych and subscribe.
We tried everything, but Charlie still struggled with math. Then another mom recommended IXL, a learning program that
Just to review Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Not showing, okay. Introduction. Abraham Maslow sought to explain why people are driven by particular needs by particular times. His answer is that human needs are arranged in hierarchy of the most to the least processing. People will try to satisfy the most important needs first. When a person succeeds in the satisfying the important need, he will try to satisfy the next need. A poor man will need 1, not to take interest in the latest happening in the artwork. Need 5, or how he views others. Need 3 and 4, neither whether clean air. Need 2, but he has enough food and water, and the next important need will be the main. Psychological needs, safety needs, belonging needs, esteem needs, self-actualization. Psychological needs are those required to sustain life, such as air and water, food and sleep. According to Maslow's need, these are fundamental needs are not satisfied by one, surely is motivated to satisfy them. Higher needs, such as social needs and esteem, are not recognized until one satisfies the needs to basic of existence. Mobile in Metro City, any product for growing newborns, Johnson Johnson. Safety needs, when psychological needs are met, one's attention is on safety and security in order to be free and threat of physical and emotional harm. Such needs might be fulfilled by living in a safe area, medical insurance, job security, financial resource. According to Maslow's hierarchy, if a person feels threatened and needs further up the pyramid will not receive attention until that need has been resolved. Flat for a married couple, helmet, medicines, basic mobile, or kids watch, top security guard for home, and PCI pest control. Those are some examples. Social needs, a person has met lower level psychological safety needs, higher levels are awakened. The first level of higher level needs are social needs. Social needs are those related to interaction with others and may include friendship, belonging to a group, giving and receiving love, art cheese products, gadgets with Skype network, Parker Pen, magazines, LinkedIn. Those are some examples. Esteem needs. Once a person feels a sense of belonging, the need to feel important arises. Esteem needs to be classified as external or external. Internal esteem needs are related to self-esteem, such as self-respect and achievement. External esteem needs, those like social status and recognition. Some esteem needs are self-respect, achievement, attention, recognition, reputation. Highly expensive products, Rolex, Mercedes, World Tour, Cogs and Kings, Philips 55, 3D TV, living in Hirachi. Self-actualization is a summit of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a quest for reaching one's full potential in person. Unlike lower level needs, its needs never fully satisfied as one grows psychologically. There's always new opportunities continue to grow. Self-actualization people tend to have needs such as truth, wisdom, justice, and meaning. Examples could be biological and psychological needs, wife, child abuse, helplines, social security benefits. Then we have safety needs, home security products, alarms, house, contents, insurance, life insurance, schools, belonging, love, needs, dating, matchmaking, services, chat lines, clubs, membership societies. Esteem needs, cosmetics, fast cars, home improvements, furniture, fashion clothes, drinks, lifestyle products, services. Self-actualization needs for challenging jobs. The need for highest level of promotion comes. Peak experience through aware of the truth and justice. And there you go. All right, don't forget to do your summary, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.